know, the Yoruba conversation, historical conversation, is a time where it's a refreshing, a time to reflect, a time to learn, a time to share from experience, past experiences. And this is another opportunity now in the area of medical sciences, medicine in particular. Baba will be sharing with us about the past and of course the present. He'll try to talk about the present and the future, what he sees based on his experience. Like I always say, I like to learn from people's failures because it would prevent me from making the same mistake. Yes, it's good to, a lot of times we talk about the successes. I'm not saying that talking about one success isn't good, but when you know the failure, you don't repeat the same thing. And then God Baba is still alive. You will talk about his successes, all the things that have happened in the course in the past. And for this younger generation like me that we only read, and for some of us that didn't read, it's another opportunity to learn from your wealth of experience. Once again, I'd like to welcome you all. It's an honor to have you all here today. Thank you so much. Yohane Peters is my name.
This is DAWN Commission. DAWN stands for Development Agenda for Western Nigeria, and this is the Yoruba Historical Conversations. This is the 5th edition. We had the honor and privilege of starting with the likes of Professor Bolanle Awe, Professor Banja Kitoye, Professor Shinyo Yeweso, Professor Jide Oshutokun. They've all been here. We started this series last year, and you might ask what informed this series. Basically, we felt that we needed to connect our past with our present in order to have a proper future. When we were conceiving this, we told ourselves that, and by the way, we conceived it, but the engine and the brain behind it, I keep saying, he doesn't like me saying that, it's Professor Tayo Additional from University of Ibadan. And once again, we thank you, sir, for doing that. Thank you, UI, for giving him to us. So we felt that we needed to, we've been hearing, we've been reading that history is no longer taught. Our children don't understand our history. They don't know where we're coming from. And we felt that doing nothing is not an answer or a solution. We have to do something. This is a commission that was set up by the 6 Southwest states to midwife their integration, development, history, culture. So we are an ubiquitous organization, and history is probably, without history we can't do anything. For example, this is an historical building. You celebrated 50 years, was it last year or 2 years ago? So we told ourselves that we need to do something. Let's start. No matter how small, let's start from somewhere and take it forward. Let's start engaging the public again, that we are not ashamed to say that we are concentrating on the Yoruba part of Nigerian history, because this is Southwest. So we are not here to talk about what's happening in Uselaiku or something. No, this is Yoruba land, and we are not apologizing for that. But we need to even teach our children even the basics of Yoruba history. And thankfully we started that, and it's going. We have it as part of our ambition that by the time we have the first 10 series, we're going to put all the lectures together and distribute. We won't even sell. We're going to distribute it to the right places, so that this knowledge that's being passed down by our revered intellectuals and fathers will at least have an impact. It's not just a talk shop of giving a lecture here and what else. It must impact on the coming generation. We shouldn't have a generation that will be telling us in a few years' time that who is MKO Abiola. I have a copper who was telling me that who is Abiola. Abiola is just recently, to some of us. So that's the challenge, and as much as possible we will use this platform to tell our younger ones that we were once proud people and we should still be proud people. It's unfortunate that today in this region we have to go and beg in Abuja every month before we can pay salaries. We were never like that in the past. This region used to lend money to the center in those days. My great uncles will tell me that this region used to pay higher salary than the federal in those days. But today the economy we are practicing here is what we have termed Almajiri economy, where we have to go out every month, we go and wait for allocation before we can pay. Unfortunately, the allocation no longer even covers. That's why we have states in the southwest owing salaries. Shouldn't be the case. It's because we lost our history, really. I was at a program last week in Lagos, and I informed them that there's something I was reading in my office there, that between 1955 and 1957, this region made a total of 47 million pounds sterling from the export of cotton alone to UK. Cotton. We were selling cotton to UK in the 50s. What happened? We used to be the major cocoa producer, palm oil. We don't do anything anymore. We just wait every month. Club refund. Those are the things we live on now, and it's a shame. But we still believe that it's not a lost cause. We must sensitize our younger ones. Let them know that we are proud people, we have a history, and that's why we are doing this. Today's lecture will be the first one that will be subject specific. We are talking about the pioneers of medicine, in Yoruba pioneers of medicine in this country and in the world. I'm sure that there's no I won't be doing that. My colleague will still be doing Baba Citation later, but I'm sure that we are in for a great time. But before I take my seat and stop boring you, Dawn, as I said, is development agenda for Western Nigeria. For those that don't know, it was set up. We started life here in 2013 as a commission, as an office to midwife the integration process. What gave birth to the idea of Dawn? Some eggheads came together a few years before 2013, like 2010, and they started thinking that what will happen to Nigeria after oil? So the theme of their first gathering was Nigeria after oil. Now what will happen? If we stop selling oil tomorrow, are we just going to disappear from the face of the earth as a people? So minds were concentrated. They came together and started thinking, you know what? We used to have a region that worked. Yes, we are now into different states. We are not going to eradicate the states, but at least we have a contiguous border. We speak the same language. We have the same culture relatively. Why can't we start working together again? That was the primary motive when they started meeting, that we can start doing things together. Rather than Oshun doing this on its own, or Oyo Ikiti, why can't we start having joint effort? That was the idea. And by the time they met for over a 2-year period, it dawned on them that they needed an office, an organization that would do that. They couldn't have left it in the hands of the individual states. So that was what gave birth to this office. That you guys, you are the ones that will midwife this process. And by the grace of God, we've been able to, as much as possible, bring them together, talking together, doing things together. At least that common realization that they are the same and that they can work on for a common purpose is now there. So we can, at the drop of a hat, we can call in the commissioners from the 6 states, and they're here. The governors too are now meeting regularly. The next one is coming up in about a month's time in Abeokuta, and they are all happy now, working together. Although we have this joke here that I think it's because oil money has dried up, so they felt that, well, we needed money, so economies of scale, let's start working together. So in a nutshell, that's what gave birth to Dawn Commission. And in the last 3 years, with a very capable team, we've been able to push the agenda forward. We also work with a few international partners, not just local partners. We are primarily funded by the 6 states that set us up. We don't play politics here. The only language we speak here is development. And as a testament to the fact that we don't play politics, the last meeting was hosted by Governor Fayoshe in Ekiti, who is not in APC, because we've had people who say, oh, is this an APC? No, no, it isn't. In Yoruba land, we should speak with one language of development, not partisan politics. So by the grace of God, we are doing that, and we can only get better. Once again, I want to thank you all for your time, for coming, and grab hold of your seats. I'm sure we'll be in for a wonderful time. Thank you, sir. I'll now call on one of my colleagues, Prince Adelola Adeloye, who will be here to do a citation for Baba before Baba starts his lecture. Tayo.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone here to the 5th edition of the Yoruba Historical Conversations. This is a platform where we get to stand on the shoulders of giants to do some deep diving into our past while we project into the future. When I was told I would have to do the citation for Baba, and I found out that Baba was a neurosurgeon, I decided to do a bit of research on what neurosurgery is all about. So I came up with a few facts. Neurosurgery, or neurological surgery, is the medical specialty concerned with the prevention, diagnosis, surgical treatment, and rehabilitation of disorders which affect any part of the nervous system, including the brain, spinal cord, peripheral nerves, and extracranial cerebrovascular system. Well, Baba has had an interesting career, as you can tell. There's some very cool facts about the brain as well, which I found out. For instance, there are no pain receptors in the brain, so the brain can feel no pain. Hence, when you see surgeons performing brain surgery and the patient is still awake, the patient can feel no pain. Then alcohol interferes with brain processes by weakening connections between neurons. I'm sure quite a number of us here can bear witness to that. Then altitude makes the brain see strange visions. Many religions involve special visions that occurred at great heights. For example, Moses encountered a voice emanating from a burning bush on Mount Sinai, and Muhammad was visited by an angel on Mount Hira. Similar phenomena are reported by mountain climbers, but they don't think it's very mystical. Many of the effects are attributable to the reduced supply of oxygen to the brain. So when next your pastor calls you and tells you he has a vision, ask him which mountain is he on. Then while awake, your brain generates between 10 and 23 watts of power, or enough energy to power a light bulb. The solution to our power problems lies in our head. Then there are about 10,000 miles of blood vessels in the brain. The distance around the equator is 24,900 miles. Then the average number of thoughts a person has each day is 70,000. 70,000 thoughts each day. I hope I'm in one of those 70,000 thoughts for everybody here. Professor Emeritus Adelola Adeloye, one of the most revered neurosurgeons in Africa, was born in July 18, 1935 in Elisha, Nigeria, to Ebenezer Ajayi and Elizabeth Adeloye. Professor Adeloye had his training at the medical school, University College, Ibadan. He was a house officer, obstetrics, gynecology, Adeoyo Hospital, Ibadan in 1960. His surgical and neurosurgical education were completed in the United Kingdom, culminating in his fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons of England. Baba was appointed to the house surgeon at St. Martin's Hospital, Bath, England in 1961, and house physician, Weymouth and District Hospital, Dorset, England in 1962. He was a senior house officer of various hospitals in England from 1963 to 1966. Professor Adelola completed his master's thesis in neurological surgery and was appointed as registrar at the National Hospital, Queen Square, London, before returning to Nigeria in 1967 as a senior registrar in neurosurgery. Upon his return to Nigeria, he served with distinction during the Nigerian Civil War at the base hospital organized by the University College Hospital, Ibadan. between 1968 and 1972, he was employed as a lecturer and the senior lecturer of neurological surgery also at the University of Ibadan. Thereafter, he was appointed as a professor and chair of neurological surgery in 1972. This experience was the foundation for his world-renowned expertise in missile wounds and head injury. I'm sure those guys in Sambisa would love to have Baba around. He obtained a Master of Surgery degree from University of London 1973 and was later appointed head Department of Surgery from 1974 to 1977. The renowned professor was also head Neurosurgery Unit, Al Adam Government Hospital in Kuwait from 1988 to 1990 until retirement in 1995. He has also worked in Britain, America, the Middle East, Oceania, Africa, and Nigeria, where he worked with the foremost neurosurgeon in Africa, Professor Odekun. He has been recognized across the globe for his long-term service and the development of neuroscience in Africa. He made significant achievements in his career and has published several books, research notes, and scholarly articles while contributing to the numerous professional journals worldwide in the field of neurosurgery. Some of the Professor Emeritus' works include African Pioneers of Modern Medicine, Nigerian Doctors of the 19th Century. This is a description of the careers of those Nigerians who qualified in medicine in the 19th century, providing detailed biographies and information on the origin and evolution of modern medicine in Nigeria, as well as the social political activities of these pioneering doctors. African Pioneers of Modern Medicine, Nigerian Doctors of the 19th century. Well, from the description of this book, you can tell Baba is the right person to tell us about medical history in Nigeria. Then also, he has written a book on E. Lasude Odekun, an African neurosurgeon, missile head injuries in Nigerian soldiers, early medical schools in Nigeria, amongst many others. Professor Adelola is a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, International College of Surgeons, Royal College of Physicians, Edinburgh, Royal College of Surgeons in England, Nigerian Medical College of Surgery, West African College Surgeons, Academy of Science Nigeria, Association of Surgeons of East Africa. He is also a member of the Nigerian Society of Neurological Sciences, Nigerian Medical Society, Pan-African Association Neurological Sciences, International Society for Pediatric Neurosurgery, Teratology Society of America, British Society Neurological Surgeons, World Federation of Neurosurgeons, many other bodies. People just can't get enough of Baba. Baba is a global champion. Professor Adeloye enjoys playing the guitar. We can understand that you need steady hands for a guitar, and I'm sure for anyone who is going to be a brain surgeon, you need the steady hands as well. He enjoys soccer as well, even though I doubt if Baba plays anymore. I'm sure Baba does more of watching. He enjoys reading and writing as well. Papa is happily married and blessed with children and grandchildren. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure and honor that I present our guest of honor and speaker for today, Professor Emeritus Adelola Adeloye.
I will sit down, sir.
Yeah. And what's that word called? It reminds me of one day I went to X-ray department to have a chest X-ray. You breathe in, you breathe out, you hold it, and then you see. After 10 minutes, I went to them. Shall I go on breathing? I'm sorry to not to ask you to sit down. Thanks very much. I must thank Professor Tomiwa for the opportunity to be here today to address this assembly. I must thank Sheye for because he visited me at the Aqueduct a number of times to talk to me about long development agenda for Western Nigeria. Told me the aspirations So he came and he said that he would like me to address you on the subject of today, the Yoruba pioneers of modern medicine in Nigeria. And I said, yes, it's a subject on which we can have some conversations, we can have some discussions, because I've been working on this now for quite a long time. So the Yoruba emergence as pioneers in modern medicine actually happened in the middle of the 19th century. There were two gentlemen who went to England to train in medicine. One, William Brighton Davis of Yoruba parentage, and the other James Beale, an Igbo. They were both students at the grammar school of Sierra Leone, and because of their the cleverness, they were specially recommended by the Church Missionary Society to the War Office and to government, that these gentlemen could train as doctors and come to serve the British Army. Three of them went. There was Broughton Davis, there was Africanus Horton, and a man called Campbell, a Wolof, who didn't last long. When they got to England, he had bronchitis and he had to be sent home, and he died shortly after that. But these two, William Broughton Davis and James Beale Africanus Horton, were like twins. So one Yoruba born in 1833, and the Africanus Horton born in 1835. And they came and sent them to where? To London, to King's College Hospital, because of the uniqueness of that institution in promoting religious studies. That was where they went, and so William Broughton Davis was the first Yoruba to graduate or to pass a diploma examination in modern medicine. That was in April 1858 in London. I cannot talk about him without mentioning one or two things about his colleague. I call him his twin, James Beale Africanus Horton. They were very distinguished. Beale Horton had studied Greek, Latin, English literature in Sierra Leone, and in fact the two of them had trained to become pastors in the church, but they changed their mind because they were selected to go to London and train. Beale Horton, at the time that they got their degree in 1858, the diploma was not accepted as a proper qualification for a practicing doctor. All they could do was to be assistants to proper doctors. They had to go to cross the Adrian Wall, go to Scotland and get the MD. MD was the first degree for any doctor in their days. So April 1858, then we moved north to Scotland, and our Yoruba man, William Broughton Davis, decided that he would get his MD through an examination, which he passed 22nd October 1858, 3 days before his own birthday. But that was Horton, very clever. He knew a lot of Latin, he knew a lot of Greek, he knew a lot of English literature. He decided to write a thesis, and he wrote his thesis for the University of Edinburgh, titled "The Medical Topography of the West Coast of Africa with Sketches of his Botany." And he got his MD. So the two of them came back to West Africa. They were commissioned into the army as staff assistant surgeons in September of 1859, because our man, the Yoruba man, had to wait for him for Horton to complete his studies before coming home. By the way, on the title page of Horton, he described himself as a native of West Africa. He didn't know exactly where he came from. The children of liberated slaves who were living in Sierra Leone. And he Latinized his name. He gave himself that name, Africanus. And today, they refer to him as Africanus Horton. If you go to the University of Ibadan, along Niger Road, past Department of Chemistry, between the Department of Chemistry and Department of Mathematics, is this narrow road going down to the computer center. That is Africanus Horton Road. All right? Yes. Back to our man. The subject is Yorubas. So, Gida once told me, when he was saying it was Africanus Horton was the first to qualify as a doctor, I said, no, it's actually William Broughton Davis. He was born in 1833, Horton 1835, and qualified the same time, but he got his MD in October 1858, and Horton's thesis he got gave him the MD some months after. So historically, the first is Yoruba man. We mustn't forget that. Now, who came after William Broughton Davis? Other Yorubas. The first one was a man called Nathaniel King, born again, liberated slaves, Reverend King, an Abeokuta man, origin in Abeokuta, and King, his son. And they transferred him to, they used to call the whole place Yoruba country. No, there's no Nigeria as we know it today, it's called Yoruba country. And they came to Ake in Abeokuta, yes. Then they had a very, very enthusiastic doctor, Dr. Harrison, who said, now, let me take some of you and prepare some of you in the rudiments of medical science. So they chose four boys. Nathaniel King was there, then three others. And then they taught them geometry, taught them sciences, taught them everything. At the end of a year, did an assessment. One didn't perform well, he was dismissed. Two, moderate, they sent them to Lagos as teachers. And the only one who survived was Nathaniel King. So the second one was the next one after William Broughton Davis. And the father of this doctor, Reverend King, together with Ajayi Crowther, translated parts of the Catechism and parts of the Bible from English to Yoruba. One thing King did again, at the time Lagos was governed. Lagos was administered from Gold Coast, that is Ghana, and Nathaniel King fought hard to make sure that stopped. There are more details in our books. So let's go on to who came after Nathaniel King. Johnson, Obadiah Johnson was the next one who qualified, who became a doctor in 1884. So Obadiah Johnson, very, very distinguished family. About 7 of them, 7 children, was number 4. And at the time, he wanted to develop his hands, not just his mind, but his hands. So he even went to learn carpentry for some time, because that was the common thing among these liberated slaves then, to learn business on a conwaja. So it's not just being a doctor, you should be able to do other things. That's Obadiah Johnson's philosophy. Ultimately, he too went to England. So again, he went to King's College, and he was hoping that he would be given a job or a place by the British Army, but this did not happen. Why? Because the white man was really afraid, in the aftermath of slavery, to start developing Africans again, because Houghton and William Broughton Davis were very, very successful. In fact, at one time, Houghton wanted to become the administrator of Gold Coast. He didn't succeed. Then in 1861, he wrote that, let us set up a medical school to train Africans. Again, it was dismissed, it was jettisoned. 10 years later, at least 1871, he said, okay, let us have a university for West Africa. Again, he failed. So this just tells the story. And now, Obadiah Johnson, he came to Lagos after getting his degree in 1884. Stayed for a short time. They went back to Sierra Leone. He was shuttling between Sierra Leone and Lagos because he wasn't quite sure of where he was going to school. And they got him appointed into the Colonial Hospital, which is the General Hospital in Lagos now. The Colonial Hospital. He was there. But there was so much racial discrimination that he said he will not be able to work there. He will have to do. That was Obadiah Johnson. But he has to write his thesis for Edinburgh. By the time he was getting ready his thesis, the MD had become a postgraduate degree, which he got in 1884. The other important thing about Obadiah Johnson was, one, his involvement in politics, two, his involvement in the Legislative Council, and three, the history of the Yorubas. I think some of you must have seen copies of history of the Yorubas. I'll start with that. His brother Samuel Johnson wrote the history of the Yorubas, sent this to a publisher in England, and said the man said they had lost it. In the aftermath of slavery, how can a decent history like this be written about these Africans? So it was lost. And shortly after that, he died. He died in 1901. And his brother, Obadiah Johnson, took up the challenge, collected all his scraps of papers and manuscripts and everything. And then he rewrote the book, sent it again to England. But now, the First World War was on, and that boat was captured. The boat that was carrying the book was captured and was not released until after the end of the First World War, which is 1918. And anyway, the book came out, and then, oh yes, we found the book, but they said we had one problem: no paper to find it. And this was deliberate. So, and after that, of course, it's a pity that Obadiah Johnson died in September 1920, and this book came out in August 1921. That is after Obadiah Johnson had died. But thanks to a gentleman called Moshuro, Moshuro of booksellers, 2 years ago, he made available copies of the history of the Yoruba by Johnson, Samuel Johnson, and I bought a copy. Somebody borrowed it. He said he will return it. I'm still waiting. So if you know, if you see bookseller Moshuro, Kolade Moshuro, will be able to give you copies of this. So that's Obadiah Johnson. The next, he in his thesis made one very important observation, that among the Yorubas we have the highest incidence of twin pregnancies. In those days he made that, and it's been borne out today that Erua, yes. That's why you have the Igora, the highest incidence of twins in the world. You don't know whether it's yam they eat or you don't know what they, but this. So he made that observation. After him came Randall, John Randall. Randall was again. He has some connection with Oyo. He was born, liberated slave, but had connection with Oyo, and the son Randall was very, very aggressive. He wanted to be a doctor. He wanted to go to England. He went to England and he qualified in 1888. That's 4 years after Obadiah Johnson. And he came and he became celebrated for his involvement in politics. Himself and one other doctor that I will mention very soon, Orishadipe Obasa, they formed the People's Union, the first political party in this country in 1908. Because of the water rate agitation in Lagos, I'm sure traditional we know all this. Water rate agitation in Lagos formed the party. It's Orishadipe Obasa. His original name was John Stone Smith. John Stone Smith. That's Obasa. And then I was surprised, I was pleased to read it, that he had some connection with the Elekole of Ikolekiti, where I have my roots. So he was the secretary of the People's Union. Randall was president, and they were involved in politics, and they were doing very, very well until the Democratic Party, Nigerian Democratic Party, was formed, and he threw them out. Now, talking about Randall, which is a lesson for us, the family, he had children from 4 women. The first from the Domingos. The second was the daughter of Labulo Davis. This Labulo Davis was very, very rich merchant in old Lagos. Then the third, I can't remember it, but the fourth one came from Ekiti. So four women, children from them, and there were 13 children. And their grandchildren, they formed now an association. They formed themselves an association of the Randall family, and they meet from time to time to celebrate their father. So I think, yes, so I think that is a good lesson for us. Then there are other, after Obasa Ikija, they call it Obasa Ikija because the mother is from Akija. Akija is Ikija, yes, as well. The mother is from there, and the father has this connection with one of the old Elekole of Ikiti. The next one was a doctor born in Lagos, Lee Shodipe. He didn't live for long. He died at the age of 36. Then the most celebrated of them was Shapara, Dr. Shapara. His original name was Alexander Shapara. He went to England, he changed, so he didn't want to be called that, and he took on the name Kuntola Mbaku Shapara. That was but he did a lot of work on traditional medicine. He even went to join the association because smallpox was very rampant at one time, and he joined the Shankwana worshippers group, and he knew their method of disseminating this, and he wrote a whole report which he sent to the governor, and the banned the worship of Shankwana. And they were pursuing him, trying to get him, trying to kill him, but he was escaping, but not completely. As the Yoruba say, Atakuru Onoado, this is what happened. When I visited Mr. Olabi in Lagos, some years ago, about 20 years ago, he said his pregnancy, the pregnancy that produced him lasted 15 months, 15 months. But he survived, and then that's why they called him Olabi. But the girl that did not survive was Layinka. Layinka died under very mysterious circumstances. They said it was because they couldn't get the father. They got her and died. And then there was the dirge that they were singing at the time. Layinka Shakwara, Omaraye Debiti, Ongbelo. That was the song at the time. So those are the men. But these pioneers are not only men, they're women. And the two examples that come to mind, one, Yewande Savage. Yewande Savage, the daughter of Dr. Savage. She very, very distinguished, very precocious. By the age of 13, she had passed the examination of the Academy of Music in London, and went to Edinburgh and graduated with honors, but did not come to practice in Nigeria, did all her practice in Ghana, and then retired to England and died in 1965 at the age of 58. But the first doctor, the pioneer doctor among the ladies is Awoli, Dr. Mrs. Awoli, not Awoni, Awoli. The husband was a special advisor to the government. Herself, she was born in 1910, a devout Catholic, went to Catholic schools, ultimately went to Queen's College, one of the pioneer students of Queen's College. Ultimately again found herself in Ireland and graduated with honors in medicine, and came to Lagos. And socio-politically, he was very, very active, particularly during the regime of Gawan. He was one of the ones that used to go to Dodam Barracks at the time to encourage Gawan to keep Nigeria one. It's a task of, and even the word Gawan became an eponym. Go on with, yes, that's Gawan. And this lady was involved in all that. I won't go into any more details about the leaders. But now, what about the general practice? The Nigerians in government service at the beginning of the last century were only about 10. Probably remember them. Oguntola Shakpara was there because he served government for about 32 years. Akinwande Savage was there, but the most famous of them all was Samuel Mana. I'm sure you know about Samuel Mana. Mana, you know, he was the one highly decorated, highly celebrated, and the first Nigerian to pass the FRCS in Scotland, and again celebrated as being a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons and fellow of the Royal College of Physicians. I'm humbled to say that I'm the second one after him. So that. Now, what about private practice? What about private practice? Because when doctors, when we get frustrated, then we leave government and we go private. We leave government and we go into politics as doctor politicians. And a gentleman called the first mayor of Lagos, he was a graduate he went to Glasgow. Again, first personals, he came back, went to set up at Kakawa Street. Yes, and he joined the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party joined the NCNC. Some people didn't like it. You see what he stayed. In 1950, they had their election for the Lagos Town Council, and they won massively, 18 out of 24 seats, and he became mayor of Lagos. Unfortunately, after that, there were evidence of massive corruption by him, massive corruption in the Lagos Town Council, and they had to have another election in 1953, which he lost, and he was swept out of office. So, ironically, the first mayor of Lagos was the last and the only one that they ever produced. Now, talking about private practice, private practitioner, the first, there are two in Ibadan here. One, Ayojo or Olaibigbe, I don't know, maybe Baji might know. This gentleman was born in Sierra Leone, Egba origin. He came, set up in Egbagi here. But it was in that year that he set up that Saka Agbaje went to UK. He went to Scotland. Saka Agbaje was born in 1902. Went for his medical training in Scotland, and he was a champion boxer, by the way, apart from every other thing. Yeah. And so he came home and set up. Came home and set up his clinic at Adamasingba, where he practiced. Now, what about? So we talked about the doctors in civil service, the doctors in private practice. What about doctors in special areas, in specialties? So again, they are pioneers. We take psychiatry. You all know about the late, the legendary Lambo from Abeokuta, who did psychiatry, and he popularized the village method of treating mental diseases, based on his experience as a Yoruba man, based on his experience about how the Yoruba man can live peacefully, and that's the basis of the treatment of psychiatry. Then in neurology, what about neurology? We have two doyens. One, the late Oshitokun, and the other one, the late Olufemi Dada in Lagos. Okay, they were doyens. Dada was in the forefront of the movement that led to the formation of the Pan-African Association of Neurological Sciences. And of course, Oshitokun was famous for finding the cause of rasa. It was common in Ekpe. Rasa is an ataxic syndrome, and they found out that it was due to cyanide in poorly prepared, poorly processed cassava diet, and that was that. Then neurosurgery. Our man, my boss, Olatunde Odeku, from Awe, is the same family with Odeku. When you talk to them, if you if you are a man who go to the pub very frequently, you sit and meet an Odeku or see an Odeku there. Odeku is a big. It's a big drink. That is brought. Latin Odeku did not drink. He smoked. He smoked for a very brief period and gave it up. But he was the first. He pioneered the practice of neurosurgery in Africa south of the Sahara. He set up here in 1962, University College and University College Hospital. I joined him in 1967, and together we did a lot of work during Civil War of 67 to 70. And we described the subbiliary occlusion cyst located right over the anterior fontanelle, reminiscent of Alade Wu in Odunjo's book. So that's what we did. Other things. So that's that. And then now, what about preventive and social medicine? Dr. Oluwole, Professor Adeloye, Joseph, Professor Lucas, etc., etc. That he wants in that specialty. All these are Yorubas. All the people I've mentioned, they are Yorubas. What about community medicine? The late Brown, after whom Alexander Brown called his name, said, "No, I'm tired of this internal medicine. That the medicine that they teach students there is internal medicine imported from England." So when we ceased to be a college of University of London, we had our own curriculum, and then they decided this community medicine at Ibarapa, and again, a big Yoruba man who was in that team. There was Dr. Lowe, there was Professor Brown, and Ogunlesi, who now lives in Shagamu. Today is 94 years old, and Emeritus Professor of Medicine. Now, what about Yorubas in medical schools? I've told you about Nathaniel King, one of the four that was in the experimental school at Abeokuta. Then what about Yaba? Again, when Yaba finished, they produced 62 assistant doctors, and out of this, some went for higher diplomas. Again, Yorubas pioneered that. Olu Mabayoje Jeshaman was the first to get the of Scotland. After that, Ogunlesi, who got London and Edinburgh. So again, that is leadership that the Yorubas provide. What about the Kano Medical School? Yes, short-lived, but again, some Yorubas they led. They were the ones leading the success story there. A man called Adeloye from Ilorin ultimately became the director of medical services in the University of Ilorin. Omar Jashola came to us in an institution in Ibadan. Professor Adekunle will remember him. Again, he's from that place. He's a Yoruba man. And then, now, what about our own medical school here? Well, I have to be personal. We were the first set, 14 of us, to train completely in Ibadan here without having to go to London. 14 of us. 13 Nigerians, 1 Ghanaian, Kwesiana. And we trained there. And in our class, there were 2 college scholars, Bankole and myself. Bankole, Yoruba from Akure, and alumnus of government college, and myself from college alumnus of Christ School. So this we still maintain that Yoruba will maintain that leadership. Again, the set after us. There are even three of them, three Yorubas. The first of them was Latif Salako. Number 2 was Shiji Oshunkoya. And number 3, alumnus of Christ School. So this is the we're not trying to blow it up, but just to talk about Yoruba's leadership role that we have provided. So those then after that the quest for leadership, the quest for manpower in the developing countries, independence started to come. And then we start to look for leadership. Where are we going to get this? And the Rockefeller Foundation, they came and they said they were going to help us develop our manpower. And they identified 3 universities in the world. 1, University College Ibadan. 2, the East African universities, composed of 3. 1 serving Uganda, 1 serving Kenya, and the other one Tanzania. And then 1 in Colombia, University of Valle, EALE in Colombia. Those are the 3. And then when they came to Ibadan, they looked at which areas are we going to develop. Number 1 was your department, history. The Department of History. Number 2, our faculty of medicine. And the 3rd was the Institute of African Studies. So, talking about history, under the leadership of DK, they produced top-notch historians. You know, a powerhouse of intellectuals. You know, in the Department of History. So much so that Nigeria, Africa was whenever they're looking for leadership or somebody to contacting your department, for professors, for vice chancellors, for administrators, for federal ministers and commissioners, then director of institute, director of this, director of everything from history. But suddenly, without any explanation, science started to deep. The decay, decadence started. Then we are wondering. People, young men and women decided to turn their backs on history, particularly in the tertiary institutions. They don't want to do that anymore. And when Dr. Professor Elebuti launched his book on Labulo Davis, a very, very rich and successful merchant in Lagos, I was there, and we begged that we should try and make all effort to resuscitate history. The Oba of Lagos was the royal father of the day. He said he was writing something on the way, the dubious way that the Englishmen took Lagos. The governor of Lagos at the time, Fashola, yes, said he was going to make history a compulsory subject at in the secondary schools. And around that time, the Historical Society of Nigeria met. They were appointing their patrons. The last president, Goodluck Jonathan, was one of the patrons, and said before he left office that he will make sure that history was returned to the nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. So we are looking forward to dawn. We are looking forward to dawn. What are we going to do? It's the dawn of the new era, So we are hoping that you will try and help us to put history back in the curriculum. So our boys and girls will know what the Yorubas have done. They will know leadership role that we have played. When we were students, we went to Adelola, we were led by Owoshina. Owoshina is late now. And we dressed very well with small bow ties or light bow ties or anything. We went to and we had a whole list of complaints that we took to Adelola. And one day, and he sat us down and he lectured us and he told us his plans for the government. That by the turn of the century, that he would like to see Nigeria catching up with Spain and Portugal. That they were the two poorest countries in Europe. We don't want to catch up with America, no. But these two, Spain and Portugal, and then we all start getting up. We didn't say anymore. I just destroyed all the things we wanted to say because I had thought about all these things. So Cheye, thanks very much for giving me this opportunity to come here. And I'm sure you will have your project for developing a sense of history. Let our boys and girls know about history. If you show them, some of them, the currency, the 200 naira, the 500, they don't even know who's on it. And if so, is this person? They say, who? You say, they say, okay, I'll help you. The name begins with Obafemi. You say, or Martin. No, the man playing football. Yes, the footballer. So this is a big subject. So which is done a successful time, and whatever we can do to help, to assist, we will do it. Thank you very much.